Hello, everyone, and welcome to Minimalist Gourmet, where today I'll be teaching you how to make gluten-free English muffins. Whether you want to enjoy these with some jam or make them into Eggs Benedict, there are so many possibilities. I'll take you step by step, so let's get started. The first thing we need to do is bloom or proof our yeast. So in this bowl, I have 3 tablespoons of milk that's at about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of instant dry yeast, and so the yeast has something to eat, we're going to add about a tablespoon and a half of our gluten-free flour mixture. Now stir these ingredients very, very well and allow them to sit at room temperature for a good 10 minutes while we amass all the rest of our ingredients and get on with the recipe. This will give it a chance for that yeast to activate. In this mug, I have 2/3 of a cup milk, 2.5 tablespoons of butter, and to this, I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup water. I want to put this in the microwave and let it get hot for about 30 seconds or so until that butter melts and it's just kind of warm to the touch. I'm using my own homemade gluten-free flour blend for breads. Check out the description below for a recipe. Of course, you can always use a commercially available product, that should be fine. Now, each blend is a little bit different, so I'm going to start off with 1.5 cups of flour in my bowl, but chances are I'm going to have to adjust this a little bit more later. That's not a problem. I'll walk you through exactly how we do that so you can adjust this for your own flour blend. Add in 1.5 teaspoons of white sugar, 1.5 teaspoons table salt, and 1 teaspoon baking powder. Thoroughly mix all of your dry ingredients before making a well in the center. Then we're going to pour in our wet ingredients directly into this well. Again, you want to make sure that your butter, milk, and water mixture is hot at about 110 degrees Fahrenheit or so. But if it's much, much hotter than that, when we pour our yeast in, it can actually kill them. So make sure that it's not too hot. Now we're going to mix this very, very well. As I said, I started out with 1.5 cups of my gluten-free flour blend. I'm going to have to add a little bit more, and the way that I'm going to tell is by sticking my finger in. You're going to see that it sticks to my finger a lot like cake frosting, indicating that it's much, much too wet, and I'm going to have to add a little bit more flour. However, before we do that, we want to add in our yeast mixture. Our yeast mixture looks great. It's nice and frothy, meaning our yeast is totally alive and active. We want to add all of this mixture into our dough and stir it very, very well. After mixing in the yeast mixture, I'm going to start doing increments of about 1/8 of a cup flour into the bowl and then stirring it in very well. I'm going to check after each installment and check on the consistency. I'm looking for a consistency that is still slightly wet and doughy, of course. However, when you touch it, it shouldn't stick to your finger like it did before. It shouldn't be like cake frosting. So when it reaches this stage, you know you're done. I ended up using 2 cups of flour in total. Now we need to prep up our work surface so we can turn out our dough. I'm going to sprinkle down a little bit of white rice flour or a little bit more of our gluten-free flour blend. That'll be fine. Place our dough ball right on top of that and sprinkle a bit of flour right on top of our dough ball. This is why you wanted your dough to be slightly sticky and a little bit wet as it was in the bowl, because when we turn it out here on the table and do the final last bit of working here, it's going to soak up a little bit more flour and become the perfect consistency. So once it's perfectly hydrated, it should look like this. You can use a rolling pin, but I'm just going to use my hands here to press this out into a disc that's about a 1/2 inch thick. Now, when cutting these out, you can use a knife if you want to make them square or a biscuit cutter. I don't have a biscuit cutter, but I do have a mason jar. And when I take the lid off of the mason jar, I'm left with something that resembles a biscuit cutter and is going to work perfectly for me. When you're a minimalist, all the tools in the kitchen need to be multi-purpose. I'm going to take a little bit more of my flour blend here and run it around the rim so that nothing sticks when I cut out my English muffins. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to go down, like, share, and subscribe. While you're down there, maybe leave a comment. I love to hear from everyone that watches these videos. And definitely check out the description because there's always a recipe included in all of my videos. When cutting out your English muffins, you want to make sure to push down straight. You don't want to twist it as you push down. Then gently just push on the top here to release your English muffin. Once you've gotten as many English muffins as you can from your first round, just take the scraps, roll them in your hands here again, press them out flat into a disc, and continue on with the process. The first time I rolled it out, I was able to cut 5 muffins. I'm rolling it out here for the second time, and I was able to cut 2 muffins. I'm left with these scraps, but instead of rolling it out and trying to cut it again for a third time, I actually just took the scraps and pressed them into my cutter so that I can make my final muffin just like this. In total, I made exactly 8 English muffins. Place the muffins onto a tray, cover them with a clean towel, and let them rise in a warm place for about 30 minutes. Half an hour later, I've got my pan on a medium heat and I'm going to spread a little bit of oil in. If you would like, you can skip the oil actually and use cornmeal instead and use a dry cooking process. It would be a bit more traditional. After a half an hour, our muffins have risen nicely and are ready to cook. This process is fairly straightforward. When I place them into the pan, though, I do like to give them a nice little twist so that way all of the surface on the bottom gets coated with oil and nothing sticks and they cook evenly. We're going to cook them on this first side for about 5 to 7 minutes on a medium heat or until they're nice and golden brown and delicious. It's been about 7 minutes and these are ready to flip. Let's take a look. Yep, looking nice and golden brown and delicious. So we're going to go ahead and flip them over. And just like the first side, I like to give them a nice little twist in the oil to make sure that everything is well coated. Again, we're going to cook them for an additional 5 to 7 minutes on this side. And after another 7 minutes of cooking, these sides look great. They look nice and done. So I'm going to go ahead and double check just by touching them here and around the sides. They all feel nice and firm, so they're ready to pull. You want to put these on a cooling rack. I don't actually have one, but this rack from my little toaster oven should work perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and pull these off and let them come down to room temperature while I cook the other 4 of my English muffins. You do want to let these cool down a bit before eating. Now, when opening, you could use a knife, but to be fair, my wife's family's from England, and if I used a knife to cut these open, I would never hear the end of it. That's why I'm going to do what the good queen intended and use a fork. This will help preserve all of those beautiful nooks and crannies that we worked so hard to get. Because they're gluten-free, everyone can enjoy them. However, we still retain that wonderful texture and taste. There are 1,000 different ways that you can enjoy an English muffin. Today I'm going to go simple just by toasting them up, putting a little bit of butter and strawberry jam on them. In fact, I'll be using my homemade 3-ingredient strawberry jam that you can make in minutes. Definitely check out that video. Link is in the description below. Guys, it really is just that easy to make these delicious gluten-free English muffins at home tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate your time and attention today, and I hope to see you all again here next time on the next episode of Minimalist Gourmet.